Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, your recovery-focused podcast with your host, Keegan. We often talk about the person in the bottle, but what about the person holding the home together? How do you distinguish between supporting a partner and enabling a disease? And once the silence is finally broken, how do two people begin to trust the sound of each other's voices again? Today, we're revisiting a story that of Damien Bloss and his wife, Alicia. Damien spent 2 decades carrying the weight of a secret trauma and a functioning addiction until he realized he hadn't just lost his sobriety, he'd lost himself. He's the author of Breaking the Silence and the upcoming Recovering Out Loud, but today we're completing the picture. Joining us with him is his wife, Alicia. And she stood by him throughout the whole thing, and boy oh boy, I'm excited to hear the story. So Alicia, thank you for being on, because I know that it takes a lot to stick through the addiction with everyone and everything that goes on with it. But I mean, we heard Damian's story and how he fell into it, so I guess we're kind of seeing like what your side of the story was and how everything kind of compares. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So real quick, Damien, you were slightly addicted before getting married, if I have my timeline correct?
Yes. It didn't start ramping up until I'd say probably about 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
So, she didn't catch in the beginning, it wasn't the full Damien is completely addicted right away. It gradually, ramped up to that.
Yeah. Alicia, did you see anything at first that kind of made you question reality or like who Damien really was behind closed doors per se?
Not right away. It took a couple of years. So we had met through a mutual friend, and at some point she had, like, I had always known of him prior to us getting together. So like I knew some of the things that he had gone through. I knew, that he loved to drink and go out and have fun and all this other stuff, but I didn't know obviously to the extent of who he was until we were together for probably about 3-ish years. The first couple of years, both of us spent, just in the, as I said, the honeymoon stage for years. Usually that only lasts a couple of months, but I think for us, it lasted a good 3-4 years. And in the first couple of years, we both drank. So we both drank a lot, but it wasn't until I got pregnant with our youngest, where of course I couldn't drink, that I started to realize, he was drinking more. He was, he'd have to go out to his car to get something. And, 20 minutes later, he comes back in when the car is only 5 feet away from the house. And, so he could go out and grab, get a drink or two in. There was always that magical beer that was hiding in the back of the fridge. And at the time I chalked it up to, his oldest was 8 at the time. Mine was 5. This is all kind of new for him in a way, having a baby, and I got it. I understood. I didn't like it because as women, we always have that, I can't think of the word, not jealousy, but like it's almost like it's just not fair that the guy still gets to do whatever he wants to do while we're pregnant and we've got the baby.
Yeah. So
like I kind of understood. But then after we had her and we moved, I realized that there was something off. He was not just drinking more at night, but he would get up at 6:30 in the morning before work and he would start drinking. And so it did take a couple of years before I finally realized that this is not normal behavior for anyone, really.
Yeah. Oof. That story just hit me too, because I can relate so hard. I don't have children or anything, but I do totally remember the whole, I got to go to the car to get something. And it's like, we live on a 3rd-story apartment. So yeah, it was like going downstairs and then going back up, but like it didn't need to take as long as it did. And Damien, on that end of things, like, did you ever find yourself coming home and then sitting in the car and then drinking before you went in? Because I did that all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I started out doing that, and then it was like, I could probably get a lot more in if I did it on the way home, and that was, looking back at it now, that's ridiculously scary and ridiculously
dangerous.
Dangerous and, ignorant on my part. But, as the addict, all I'm thinking is, I need more. I need to get more. I don't care what is in my path. I just need to get more. And that's when I decided, hey, I'll just do it on my way home. Then when I get home, sit in the car for an extra couple minutes or, half hour or whatever, and decompress with more, and that's how it evolved into that. Once I started learning I could do it. That's how it evolved. It started out as an experiment. Like, let's see
Hmm.
what'll happen if I do it this way. Then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, now it's a habit. Now I need to do it every day.
Yeah. And Alicia, did you find yourself kind of gaslighting yourself into not questioning things a little bit sooner or anything like that?
I think I accepted it too soon.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I just accepted that this was the way that it was supposed to be. I think I've always said to people I felt like I deserved to have this happen, to have it happen to me. I felt like I deserved to have a husband who was an alcoholic, have a husband who was a liar, and in his active addiction was the liar and the narcissist. And, I felt like because growing up, I was always told I wasn't worth anything.
Mm,
So I felt like, okay, found this amazing person that I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. It wasn't going to be perfect. I know, I was aware of that. Nothing is perfect. But I felt like as soon as I started noticing who he was deep down and what he was going through, I felt like that was my punishment, that I deserved to have
oof.
an alcoholic in my life. I deserved to have an addict in my life who was going to do these things to me.
Mm,
So yeah, it was, in fact, I even said it the other day. I still, after all this time, I blame myself, and I know deep down it wasn't my fault, but it's still, there are still times that I actively blame myself for his addiction, despite the fact that half of it happened before I even came along.
man, that's really rough. I'm really sorry to hear that. And that kind of goes back to like your childhood. As you were saying, you were kind
Mm-hmm.
of raised to not have that self-belief and self-worth. And
Mm-hmm.
so in a sense, y'all are actually recovering together in different
Mm-hmm.
ways, essentially. But
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, it's a recovery journey that y'all are taking on as a couple. And so my question is, you said that you still kind of blame yourself for it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you would say to the spouses or partners out there for someone that's going through it at the moment and how they can maybe not blame themselves for something that's out of their control?
It is hard. It is definitely hard because because I still have those moments where I still believe that it was because of me. It's not difficult to support other spouses or family members because I feel everything that they're going through, because it does remind me of everything that we had gone through. The only thing that I can say is to make sure that you take care of yourself. If there are children involved, make sure you take care of your children. If there is abuse involved, definitely make sure you take care of yourself and your children and you get out if you can. For us, I mean, I was lucky. I was never afraid of him. I never thought that he would ever hurt me or hurt the kids. I
Mm-hmm.
was always more terrified of him hurting himself or someone outside, because of the drinking and driving. So,
Yeah.
it was more of just the emotional abuse and neglect that we had gone through. But for anyone who is going through it, you and your children are going to have to be your number one priority. And while it hurts to see your loved one go through all of that, there are times that, I will never knock someone who has to leave that is in that position. Just because I stayed doesn't mean that you have to. If it's better for you and your kids, by all means, please. And that addict will have to figure it out. And, we can still love them from afar. We can still try to help them. But at the end of the day, that is all. Can't think of the word. It's where we always say it's I am doing this because that I am going to be doing it.
Oh,
Enabling, Lord Almighty, yes. At the end of the day, sticking around
Uh-huh.
is in a weird way, it is enabling that
Mm.
addict
Ooh.
because yeah, and it wasn't until he went to rehab that I even realized that that's what I was actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was enabling his addiction because he knew I was going to be there to pay the bills. I was going to be there to pick up the kids. I was going to be there to take care of the house. I took care of literally everything.
Mm.
Damien only had to worry about Damien. Alicia had to deal with everything else.
Yeah.
So, yes.
That's hard. That is really hard. And that actually like kind of hurt me a little bit because with my ex-wife, I can realize that she was somewhat enabling it, but it wasn't because she necessarily knew how bad it
Yeah.
was, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the thing is that, like you said, she figured out that it was best for her if we separated. And honestly, it was the best thing that could have happened because it did ultimately lead me to my path of recovery, as much as
Mm-hmm.
it sucked. But at the same time, it was like ripping off a band-aid, so to speak, you know, like get the pain over with. And it sucked and it led me down some dark roads. But again, I can ultimately be thankful for it in a really weird, morbid kind of way. But Damien, did you ever sit there and actively know, or maybe not actively know, but instead of thinking that, oh, she's enabling this, it was kind of more like a hall pass of a sorts. Like, I get to do this because I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. I don't have to worry about the kids because I know that I have a rock to fall back on or something like that.
Absolutely. I didn't know it was enabling, but I knew that she was there. And I knew that no matter what I did, if I said, hey, I can't pick up the kids because, I've had too much to drink, I know that she's going to get them. And I would purposefully do it. If she said, hey, you got to pick up the kids today, I'd come home from work and I'd start drinking and I'd call her or text her and say, hey, yeah, I kind of slipped up. Can you pick up the kids? And she would do it. She knew she had to, and I knew she had to. Somebody's got to do it, whether it was going to be her or somebody else. I knew that I didn't have to do it, and I'm free and clear to do what I need to do, and that is to drink and drink. And yeah, so I knew for a fact that I could do what I wanted, and she was going to pick up the pieces in a roundabout way. So I would do it.
And it got to the point where I stopped asking.
Ooh.
I stopped asking for him to help. I stopped asking for him to pick up the kids. I picked up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
And, being married and having children and being a single parent at the same time
Mm-hmm.
is, I feel, we've both been single parents without each other, but being a single parent while you're married is very difficult. And he was like, I had a fourth child. Is really what it was. Like I had to drive him everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we went anywhere, I was driving because it got to the point where I didn't know if he was going, like wherever we were, I didn't know if he was going to drink. So it was just easier for me to just do it myself.
Yeah.
And I stopped asking for help, not just from him, but from everybody. I just stopped.
Man.
Yeah.
That's hard. Being able to take up that mantle and say like, I'm going to do this because everyone else depends on me.
Mm-hmm.
So like that sounds like it could have led to a burnout for yourself, which ultimately would have been really bad all the way through. And real quick on that aspect, whenever you said that no matter where y'all went, you were worried if he was drinking or not, Damien, I can totally relate to having a couple of shooters in my pocket anywhere I went, especially with the wife or for family functions and stuff like that. So, Alicia, did you notice that he would try to sneak off and go to the bathroom for extended periods of time or something like that? And you were like, oh, I know what he's doing, but you couldn't really say anything because you didn't want to ruin the image, or so to
Yes.
speak?
Yes. So I would get very nervous anytime we were invited to cookouts and things where, I knew that there was going to obviously be alcohol involved because I knew that he was drinking before we went. And the minute he would see a bar, like at home or something like that at somebody's house, like his eyes would just light up like a kid in a candy store. And so I would get very nervous. And it got to the point where we stopped going places. Like I would just make excuses so we didn't have to go because, you
Mm,
don't know. I don't know which Damien we're going to get when we go out.
yeah.
And I didn't want to have to deal with the anxiety and the stress of, is he doing this? Is he doing that? Or anything like that. But he would, like, I would see him walk away, and he always had a cup that was full,
Mm,
whether we were home or we were out somewhere at somebody's house or whatever. His cup was always full because he was constantly sneaking off and, raiding whatever they had in the house. I don't think he usually took anything with us. You might have, but if you saw free alcohol, you were just going to take that and not waste whatever you might have had in your pocket. Yeah. So it was kind of embarrassing, honestly, that,
mm,
he would do that. In fact, I remember when we went to visit my dad and my stepmom, God, what was that? Almost 10 years ago now, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Um, my parents don't drink. They very rarely, they'll have a beer here and there. Even
mhm,
growing up, like all of my parents, none of them really drank. But I think they had like beer that had been in the garage for what, 3-4 years. And Damien drank them all. He
damn.
drank them all, and he found whatever it was that my dad had in the house, which wasn't much. But
Mhm,
then every day he was going out, I have to go buy something. And I knew where he was going and what he was doing. And it was embarrassing,
mhm,
to have my dad come to me later and be like, hey, I know we had a case of beer and it's gone.
yeah.
And I did say something to him, and he was like, but I replenished it. And I was like, yeah, and then you drink it. So it was very embarrassing a lot of
Yeah.
times to go places with him,
Mhm,
especially some other people's houses.
And I think I looked for them to introduce me to their alcohol,
Mm,
basically. Like if they
ooh,
said, "Hey, you can have a beer," that is my ticket to say, uh, "Hey, Damien, go ahead and take it all. They're not gonna drink it." That was my thought, and that's what I did. Anytime we went anywhere, I remember we went to a friend's house for a cookout, and they were like, "Yeah, there's beer in the cooler, such and such,"
you found
and
everything.
and I
mm,
found it, and what I would do is I would carry around, I'd drink the one and I'd carry that one around so that nobody thought, oh, he's still on the same one. But no, I've actually replaced it 5 or 6 more times since you saw me the first time.
man.
And then, drink, they're like, where's all our beer and stuff? And I don't know. I was,
And he'd find the liquor. So he would like have a beer, and then he'd be like, oh, I'm just going to drink a soda after this. But it was, yeah. So beer was always it was always the safe haven.
Mhm,
Obviously, that's usually everybody's safe haven, I guess. And because you can't mask it, you can't hide it. But then he would like double fist, but nobody knew he had liquor in the other cup because the liquor was off limits.
mm,
But to him,
yeah,
as soon as somebody says, hey, I've got beer, that he's like, oh, I can just raid everything.
Mhm.
man. That, oof, that is bringing up some bad memories because whenever I was healing from my broken femur, I was living with the in-laws at the time, and I knew their house inside and out, and so whenever I could first start to walk again and get around amply right to the kitchen where they kept the liquor,
Mm-hmm.
and even though I had to climb up a little bit of something, I found the energy and strength to do it because damn it
Mm-hmm.
all, I was going to have my drink. And it was honestly, it sucked. Like, I have secondhand embarrassment from what the ex-wife had to deal with her parents about, like, hey, we know that we had liquor here and the bottle's now gone or like almost empty, or like this vodka is now water, you know. Damien, on that note, did you ever find yourself like at certain events and you had to like limit your drinking per se, or like you knew that you could only have two or three, and then next thing you know, you were just like really irritable or something like that?
Yeah, most of the time when people started figuring out who I'm starting to become and what I'm starting to become, it was, I'm going to prove to you all that I can just drink one. And I would do that. And
Mm,
I would do that, but it hurt. Like it physically hurt me because like I'm over here. I got this. I drank the one really quick or finished it already. And I did it for that split second. I'm like, I can do this. But then it's like, I want another one. How can I finagle my way into the kitchen and get another one without someone questioning me? You know, my mind's starting to go, um, 100 miles an hour. How can I do this? I'm starting to think now. I'm getting stressed, and now I'm irritable, and because I can't ask for another one because I got to prove to these people I'm not an alcoholic, so I can just have one. I couldn't even enjoy myself because I'm trying to think, how can I get that second one without raising suspicion?
Mm.
And by the time before I knew it, it's time to go home, or I'm so irritable that I'm like, look, we got to go. And then I get home, I'm in my safe place, and I just go to town, on the
Mm.
alcohol. And yeah, so it was rough. I didn't want people to know who I was, but it was starting to get very hard hiding it, to where I
Mm-hmm.
almost said, you know what, I don't care what people think.
Yeah.
And just start going at it. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was hard.
Yeah, man, thank you for sharing that. I mean, there with you because I know if I had a few shooters or whatever, and I was out of those, then and especially at a place where there was no alcohol, it was like we're on a very tight time frame. If we're not out of here by like an hour and a half, then I'm a totally different person. It's like what crawled up his all of a sudden.
Mm.
And same thing with the ex-wife. She had to deal with the hide side, and it was pretty nasty. So Alicia, how did you handle those kind of moments whenever Damien wasn't Damien that you knew and he started to kind of morph, and like of course you would find a way out of the situation, but that's kind of a tight rope to walk.
Yeah, the first couple of years, like I said, I kind of, I didn't realize a lot of what was going on. I think it wasn't until one of the first times that he actively tried to get sober and he took off of work, was able to get, his 30 days off of work or whatever, and didn't go to rehab or anything, but he did the meetings every day and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when that lasted like 2 weeks and he started drinking again, I think after that, I honestly kind of blacked out
Mm.
and I went with the motions. And I legitimately think it was a burnout those last couple of years, because I would come home and, if I was working and he was off that day, come home and not know which Damian I was going to get. I started to put that wall back up. And I could, if I always knew when I walked in the house which Damien it was by the music he was playing. So if it was country music, then he was, the sad Damien. If it was the pop rap music, then he was the happy drunk Damien. And
Mm-hmm.
if it was, the angrier type, like the hardcore rap,
Huh.
then it was, he was in the nasty mood.
Mm.
So, but I would walk in and I could just instantly feel the life out of me drain. It didn't even matter
Mm-hmm.
what he was like that day, and he would try to start talking and I just blocked him out. So the last 2 or 3 years, I was so cold to everything. I had zero emotions to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I felt nothing those couple of years, because it was the only way that I could protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I still loved him,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt nothing towards him.
Oof.
Yeah. So it was really difficult to see the man that I, was going to spend the rest of my life with, the father of my child, and just to see him literally deteriorate in front of me, because while I said it was my fault, I knew he was doing it to himself. So to see him deteriorate in front of me for something that he was doing to himself,
Mm-hmm.
it hurt. And so the only way that I could deal with it was if I just blocked it all. I had no choice but to do that.
Yeah. And I can't even imagine having to do that kind of mental fortitude because, like you said, it was a burnout and the soul being sucked right out of you.
Mhm.
Might as well be showing up to a second full-time job that you absolutely hate. But
That's
like
what it
you
was.
said, yeah, and you loved him going into it and everything. And so to watch him fall apart at his own demise is really something that I can't even really fathom myself, because I was the one putting someone else through that kind of thing. And so it's really hard to picture what life would be like had we done things different. But at the same time, we're really glad that it kind of did, even if it sucked in the moment. And so that's why I think it's so awesome that you've stuck by his side this whole time and you help him with his recovery as well as doing your own recovery, you know? And so whenever y'all said that he would have to text you like, hey, go pick up the kids and stuff, I know that in our last conversation with Damien, he sat there and said that that was his breaking point, like he decided that he was going to take his own life and text you that again. And he accidentally called the pastor, and that's how his recovery journey got started. So did you see anything different that time around? Was it something that was like, oh, maybe he's serious about this, or maybe something finally clicked, or anything like that?
Yeah, so the days leading up to that day he was a lot more emotional than usual.
Okay.
He always sat out on the deck, and I would just leave him out there for hours, but like I'd go out every now and then, and he would just be sitting there, and like, I could see the look, like the life draining out of him.
Mm.
And that day I had gone to pick up my daughter from her dad's house, and my car broke down. And I called him, and as soon as I heard his voice, and I was like, you've got to be effing kidding me. Like, I could hear it. So I called my sister-in-law. I was like, I need you to come get me and take me home. I had to leave my car there. I got home. I told the kids, I told the middle one to take the younger one upstairs. And as soon as they went upstairs, I threw my stuff down and I pushed him against the wall. And honestly, and people don't believe this, but in that 10 years that we were together at that point, we had never actually argued. Like we've gotten into spats and stuff. There was only one other time that I actually like screamed at him.
Wow.
But so I pushed him up against the wall, and I just went to town. I just said everything that, especially those last couple of weeks that I've been holding back. And he looked at me and very calmly said, I've already decided, and I've called Ashley Treatment Center, and I'm going to go there. And the look on his face was totally different than the other times that he said something about trying to get sober.
Oh, wow.
And I've seen it in other people's faces too, that there's this look that addicts have when they are being truthful to themselves. It's not that they're being truthful to me, but he was finally truthful to himself that he had a problem and he knew he couldn't do it on his own anymore. That the look on his face was, and it's hard to describe. It was almost like a calming look, but a peaceful look of, I finally accepted that this is a problem and I'm going to go get help. And it was the look on his face that did it for me, that I knew it was completely different that time. And it was, even when he went to treatment and I went to go see him for the family weekend that they have. Like, I had seen him sober for a week or 2 weeks at a time, but the look on his face was just different. It was peaceful. That's the only way that I can. He just seemed to finally accept it and do what he needed to do to get himself better.
Wow. That's really awesome. And Damien, you had no idea that her car had broken down that day, did you?
No, I had no clue what transpired, anything. In fact, that was the first time I had talked to her. Cause that was the same time when I decided, look, this is it. I'm leaving this world. And it was after I had gone out and met with the pastor. I came back home. Did she then, I spoke with Ashley. I did everything before.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And then she called me about the car, and I'm like, wow. And then she came home. I told her, of course I can't do it. And then she came home and all that happened. But yeah, I had no clue any of that transpired up until that point. Everything just full circle came, together. And
yeah,
it was amazing. Looking back at it now, it was amazing. In that moment, I didn't see like how everything just worked itself out that way. But now looking back, it's like, wow, that's pretty damn amazing.
Yeah. Alicia, I gotta say, like, congrats on sticking up for yourself at that one point, because that really sounds like that was the tipping point. It sounds like that was your rock bottom as well, in a sense. And so y'all both hit it at the same time on the same
Yep.
day without even knowing. That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I never even thought of it that way. Like when people, we know everybody has their different rock bottoms. And, for some it's, them going to jail or, wrecking their car or losing their family or anything like that. Everybody has different rock bottoms. And it is very unusual that ours literally was the exact same moment and the exact same thing. I don't think I ever thought of it that way before. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Cause it was hearing his voice that day. And I can remember being on the phone. Like I had only made it out of the driveway of my ex's house to the stop sign and my car broke down. And so I can vividly remember being on the phone with him, hearing it in his voice. And he hadn't said a word to me at all about whatever happened it was during the rest of the day. And as soon as I heard his voice, I instantly got angry. He even started when I started to I think he could feel like how angry I was, that he then started to get angry.
Oof.
And somehow it was my fault that my car broke down. Like I purposefully made my car break down. And so I think you're right. I think that between that and everything that he had gone through that day and all at the same time, it was both of our rock bottoms. And I was done. Like I got home and I was like, I'll send you wherever you want to go. And at that point it wasn't even rehab. Like I'll ship you off to my brother's house or your brother's house. Like both of our brothers are 8 years older than we are, and so they're terrifying human beings. Like they'll ship you in the shack or put you in place, or like I didn't care. Like you can't stay here. I was done. I wanted nothing to do with him. I didn't care where he went. I would have dropped him off in the corner. I didn't care until he said that he was going to treatment. So this just everything was a complete and total full circle at the exact same moment.
Yeah. If there's not a moment of like higher power intervention or something like that, I don't know what else that would be, because that just sounds, it's one of those things that you can't make that stuff up, you know? And I mean, Damien, you said you got sober at home, but the recovery journey started once you got into treatment. And so, Alicia, were you concerned for his well-being whenever he was going through the withdrawals, or did you kind of think that, oh no, he's going to relapse and everything that he just said a couple days ago is out the window?
All of the above. The first day the day after, I did have to go to work, and I was explaining things to my manager and whatnot, and telling her things that I had to make sure it got done. So that day he was by himself. So I was terrified, but I also deep down knew that if he was going to do this, regardless if he's sober now or not, most people, they don't go to rehab sober. So and part of me expected him to not be able to do it because, if he's still going to go, then why wouldn't he drink the next couple of days? But I got home that day and I could tell he was going through it. And so after that, I took a couple of days off to stay with him because he insisted he didn't want to go anywhere. He wanted to, not go there, drunk or anything like that. And I still, the day before, I still expected him to go out and he didn't. I think because that's just what I've watched enough intervention to know that that's just what people do, If it were me, I probably would have done it too. Like one last hurrah. But he didn't. He stayed home. He did go to his dad's, I think, to sit with them I think it was actually the day after he sat with them for a couple hours since I was at work. But I was terrified of all of the things that he wasn't going to physically be able to do it because he was shaking and he was sweating and he was, hallucinating, all of the things that I was more afraid that physically something was going to happen to him before we got him there. But he insisted he didn't want to go anywhere to go through it, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't. So that's, yeah, I was just more afraid that in those few days that he was just gonna die or something, just wasn't gonna be able to make it because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, to like thank you for sticking by his side. I know that first day would have been really, really rough and really
Mm-hmm.
scary, but being able to take off work for a few days to kind of overwatch him and stuff like that and supervise the withdrawals is a big deal because I mean, I did my medically supervised detox and it pretty much killed me as far as I'm aware. You know, I had my near death experience and I went into delirium tremens and started seizing and my liver failed and all
Mm-hmm.
that fun stuff. So that is really scary. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm just glad that he was able to pull through like he did because
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine the kind of blame that you would have maybe had on yourself or maybe not pushing something else because you already blamed yourself for everything else. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
super glad that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Damien, on that end of things, whenever you said that it was like the worst mistake of not getting a medically supervised detox, were you also trying to like mitigate how Alicia was going to handle everything, or were you so worried about like how you were feeling that you couldn't really process some stuff at the time?
I was more worried about how I was feeling, only because the last couple times I tried to get sober, I knew what to expect, like with the withdrawal and stuff. But this one was different. It was much more amped up, and
Mm,
I was afraid, and I don't know why, and I still to this day don't know why. I was more afraid to go somewhere to detox than to detox at home. And don't know why. I don't know what was in my mind thinking like that. And I also remember thinking I'd rather just go to jail than go to a rehab. And I don't know why I thought those thoughts either. And that's the addict brain
mm-hmm,
thinking for me. But yeah, I was more worried about myself. I was more worried about, am I gonna make it out of this? You know,
mm-hmm,
and that kind of is weird when you think about it, because I was thinking that, because if I'm feeling like that, why wouldn't I go and get medically detox? You know, I'm in
mm-hmm,
a safer environment there than I would have been at home. You know, that just, it's that addict brain. You make yourself feel or think certain things because of that, because of the addiction.
mm-hmm,
We can not make sense to the outside person, but make sense to ourselves. And it's
mm-hmm.
just, it's so wild when you think about it, how it corrupts our brains
Yeah.
and makes us think that, it's just best for humanity if I do it this way, knowing that it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's just, it's wild. But yeah,
And it's not like I have any medical background,
no.
so it's not like I really would have known what to do anyway,
Uh-huh.
just put a band-aid on it, you'll be fine. Suck it up, buttercup. But, that's I still like I mean, if it had gotten to the point where I knew he needed to go, I absolutely would have. But he it's weird. You were a trooper. Like
Mm.
Yeah.
you powered through it.
If I may, I think there may have been some subconscious stuff on both of y'all's parts, especially
Mm,
Damien for not one, the going to rehab gives that weak image or that
mm-hmm.
like I'm not really a meth addict or something like that. I don't fit that bill, so I don't belong there. But I also don't want to ruin what other people may think of me if I go there. But I think the deeper aspect was that home was your safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, it kind of probably gave you that vigor and that chutzpah, if you will, to really push through. Because, I mean, whenever you're sitting there, and I know for me, depending on my environment, it would greatly affect how the alcohol would affect me. And so I think that somewhere in your subconscious, you knew that you had to get sober at home if you wanted your home life to change too. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, actually. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, spot on, dude. That's, yeah.
Very impressive.
I mean, it sounds absolutely plausible.
The real testament though is that y'all pushed through it together and y'all are recovering together and y'all have just gone and done amazing things, like with breaking the silence and recovering out loud. And so one of the questions I have to ask Alicia though is, whenever he got out of treatment, whenever he first started saying I'm sorry again, when did that actually start to feel like he meant it instead of just, or did saying sorry ever lose its meaning from him?
It took a while. It took a long while. I think there are still times that things will pop up. In fact, I even said this to him the other day. When am I going to get to the point where a random memory will pop up and I'm not angry at you all over again? And he looked at me, he goes, what did I do? And I said, look, that don't mean you, like you now. I mean you from years ago. Like, there are still times that it randomly will hit me that, you know, he did this or said this or this happened, and I instantly want to just, you know, throw a brick at him. But I don't say anything to him because I know that a lot of that is my internal issues that I have to deal with. But I can say to him, you know, what about this? And now when he says, I'm sorry, or, you know, I'll ask him, well, you know, did you do this? And he starts, like, his brain instantly will start to lie to me. And I just look at him and he'll go, nope, I'm kidding. And he'll tell me the truth automatically. And it took a couple of years, actually. Like, I think the first year was easier because we were both home because of COVID. So I think the first year was easier on us than a lot of other couples probably would have to deal with, because we were always together more so than we were before. I think it was when I actually changed careers and I started going back to an office and actually started working out of the house, did I have to start learning that his I'm sorry was more real, because I was afraid. When I changed careers and I started actually working more outside of the home, I was terrified that he was going to slip right back to where he was, because he was working from home still and he could instantly go out and do whatever he wanted to do on his lunch break or whatnot, and he didn't. So that was, I think, around the time that I had to start actively listening to his apologies for certain things. And, you know, there'd be things, my therapist says that I'm an extreme empath. So like when my friends are going through things, I instantly feel everything that they're going through. And a lot of what they go through is what we have been through that I never told anybody. And so like I would break down over my friends going through something, and I'd have to tell him why I was feeling that way. And he could say he was sorry, and that I believed. But it took a good couple of years for me to get to that point, because to me, you know, he would always say, don't, what do you say? Don't listen to
what I say, just see what I do.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
My actions are going to speak
Right.
louder than my words, because my words meant nothing. I destroyed the I'm
Everything.
sorry for so long. It had no meaning anymore. Apologies were useless. So I had to start proving that I'm sorry without saying that I'm sorry.
And that did take a while to do. And that's something that we've both learned over the last couple of years, is that people talk to have, if I've got something going on and I talk to him, I don't need him to fix it. I just need you to listen to me. And that is the problem with a lot of couples, in regardless of whether there's addiction or not, that people don't talk to listen. They don't talk, or they don't listen to understand. They listen to react. And, you know, it's something we've even told our older children in their relationships, like, you know, you have to listen to the other person, and vice versa. That person has to just actively listen to you, because it's not always what I'm saying that I need you to do. You know, women, we all say this. We don't say what we mean. We think we do, but we kind of have to spell it out for you guys, you know, or write it down. But he can finally start to hear what I'm trying to say, even if I can't get the words out. Yeah. And that I think has helped a lot. But it takes time, and nothing is going to happen overnight. This person's not
Hmm.
going to come home from rehab and everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. And the one thing that we always tell people when we go to rehab centers is because the addicts will always, of course, ask me, certain things about after he got home. And I will be the first one to say that it's not just our responsibility to forgive, but it's also your responsibility to forgive yourself and to
Hmm.
understand that if your family member isn't going to be able to forgive you, or your family member isn't going to be there when you get home, that's okay. You
Yeah.
have to give them that space. And it could be that space for a year, it could be that space for 20 years.
Hmm.
That's okay, because that addict has to understand that, you didn't just hurt yourself, you hurt the people that were supposed to love you and take care of you.
Hmm.
That is definitely something that we make sure that we say when we're at these rehabs, because they're still in it, and they think that when they get home everything's going to be great. And we were together every day and things weren't great every day.
Hmm.
It takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, that is for sure. Thank you for laying that out. And it reminds me of one of the things I heard in early recovery was that you have to rebuild trust, and you rebuild
Hmm.
trust through time and consistency.
Hmm.
And I mean, that is a really hard thing to do. And you also kind of not really personally attacked me, but I felt it whenever you were like, he's trying to apologize for like in for how you're feeling, or like he has to fix whatever made you feel bad and stuff. Because I'll do the same thing with my wife. She'll sit there and she'll be telling me about her day, or like what's bothering her, or just how she's feeling and stuff. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like let me try to fix that. And it's like, no, she's even told me, like, I'm not needing you to fix anything. I just need you to hear me and like validate what I'm going through and like understand. And it can be hard, it really
Yeah.
can be. And so, Damien, did you kind of feel attacked on that end too? Whenever you were like, I'm just trying to help. I just want to like be good.
I did. I did because, and I think what it was is because of how she helped me. So I
Mm,
felt in order for me to repay her, I have to fix her now.
mm,
So it got to that point where now I want to be the fixer. I want to be the one to bring you back. And had she not told me how she felt and said, you don't have to fix me, I just need you to listen. Had she not told me that, I would still probably be trying to fix it and probably causing more harm than good. So like I have to also be thankful that she felt comfortable enough to bring that to me, to my attention, and tell me, because you know with what I've gone through, and the way my brain reacts to things, it could have gone a different way had she told me. I could have felt attacked.
mm-hmm.
And then now we're butting heads, but going through recovery and using my tools and resources, when she tells me that, I don't take it as an attack, I take it as feedback, which I'm very very coachable and very, I let people help me, or you know coachable is the best word. I use it already.
Receivable,
Yeah, receivable. Yeah,
receptive. Sorry.
receptive. There you go. um so yeah, being able to be, to take that feedback and turn it into something more positive, and listening to her helped a great deal, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, thank you for highlighting that you have to be coachable and be able to be receptive of feedback, because I mean, even in active recovery, that can still be one of the hard things. It's like, oh, I've already worked on this. And it's like, okay, well, here's another angle of that same lesson. And I can
Mm.
still find myself being like, damn it. So
Yep.
like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
and it's just crazy to think that y'all have been through so much together, and y'all are doing so much more for everyone else out there. Y'all go to rehab centers and y'all help talk people that are going through it. Like, hey, just because you're in a treatment center does not mean the journey is over. In fact, it's just
Mm-hmm.
starting, and it can be harder than being in addiction, or I don't know. I've heard some people say like recovery isn't hard, it's easy. I've heard some people say that addiction's the hard part. And I think that they're both easy in their own right. They're both hard in their own right. And it just kind of depends on how we're wanting to look at it, maybe in the time being. So, Alicia, what is some of the things that you found have been easier on y'all's recovery journeys? And what are some things that have been harder? If you can think of any, of course.
Gosh, I think the thing that's been the hardest is that the rebuilding of the trust. And there are still things that he and I don't talk about, like I don't bring up to him, because I know if he remembered a lot of it, it would break him for how much it genuinely hurt me, because he is not the type of man, he's not a malicious person by nature. He's not a narcissist by nature. He is not manipulative by nature. Who you see today is who that he has always meant to be. And the addiction in him made him who he was for all those years. So I know that if there were things that we were to talk about, that it would break him. I think that has been one of the harder parts, is that there are things that I have to deal with on my own, with the help of my therapist, of course.
Yeah.
But like I have to work through a lot of it by myself, and I have to, like, he hasn't done anything in the last 6 years to make me not trust him, but there are still like those random things that he might do that it will instantly bring back a certain memory. And the one thing, and I know we both say this a lot, is it's the sound of like certain sounds, like sound of a Coke can. You know, if he's in the kitchen and he's getting a soda, that sound will instantly take me back. And, you know, I said something to him about it a couple years ago. And so now if he does it, he will walk in to the living room and he will open it. You know, and I didn't even have to say, hey, I need you to do this. It was, I said, this sound bothers me. And we did it, I think, in like a joking manner. And so because of that, he just started walking in and, you know, opening up in front of me, and not for any other reason than the fact that he knew that sound would instantly do something to me. So I think a lot of it is just, it's rebuilding the trust has been difficult, despite the fact that we don't really go anywhere or do anything, but it's still having to trust him. I think the easier part really has just been learning each other. And, you know, we've been together for almost 16 years, you know, we're getting old, and, you know, every couple of years, you know, family, I think this is why a lot of people go through divorce, you know, after so many years, regardless if there's addiction or not. And it's because, you know, people don't learn who that person is. Everybody changes. And so I've clearly changed in the last 16 years. He's clearly changed in the last 16 years. But I think learning each other as we are right now has been easier than the last couple of years. And then we'll go through a couple changes, you know, as we get even older, and you just have to keep learning who that person is.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that insight and valuable wisdom. And Damien, would you say that your perspective would be kind of similar? You're not the one that's having to necessarily relearn how to trust per se, but you're having to rebuild it through your actions, your consistency. Do you think that what she said would be the same for you? It's the trust aspect, but also learning each other. That's both the hard and easier parts respectively.
I would say I would agree with the trust thing, because, you know, I damaged so much. So I wouldn't say that it's completely hard to win back that trust, only because, but it's not easy either. So it goes in my hard part, only because I don't know, I still don't want to do certain things that's gonna jeopardize that. So I don't know where I kind of walk on eggshells sometimes, because I don't know what is going to trigger that thought back up to her. And so even though I know I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't want to cause that harm anymore. I kind of put that toughness on me. So I make it hard. harder than it needs to be. But I don't think that that's a bad thing per se, only
Hmm.
because it makes me realize that I've done wrong, and it holds me accountable to be like, okay, I have to really analyze what I'm about to do or what I'm about to say.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that would be the toughest part. And again, that's on me, but so I'm working on that. And I think the easiest thing, I do like what you said about relearning each other, because I'm learning. I don't think that this would be easy. I think this is the fun part, relearning about each other, and more so myself,
Uh-huh.
because I'm finding out things that I never realized before about myself. So like I feel like that's fun to do, because there was so many things that there, I've told you before in our last meeting too, that I didn't recognize who I was. I didn't know who I was, but being able to find out who I am, and I'm learning so much more about myself every day, and learning more about her, and being able to just listen and have conversations with her. And so I'm learning new stuff about her too. So I think that's the fun easy part.
I love that. Thank y'all both for the valuable insight, and I hope other people can relate as well, because I'd have to agree all the way around, because I mean, relearning myself has been fun and interesting, and at the same time, it's like, wait, that's part of me, huh?
Hmm.
Weird.
Yep.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like this is who I was supposed to be, after
Hmm.
all the traumas and addictions and whatnot. But unfortunately, we are right at the end of this episode. So I do have to ask, though, do you think that we could see y'all on in the future and dive a little bit deeper and explore some more perspectives of the recovery journey as a couple?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're down. Definitely.
This has been amazing. And also, I have a link tree link for Breaking the Silence. Is that still good?
That is still good. We
Awesome.
updated it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but it
everything.
automatically updates, so
Yeah.
it should be good.
And I know I did say Recovering Out Loud was your book that you were working on, or like, have you actually? I did forget to ask before the call started. Did you get that
Nope,
out,
you're
or is it
good.
still in production?
Yeah, no, you're good. It's actually finalized. I just got a date for launch. It's going to be March 24th,
Okay.
Which is
and
what?
which is your birthday. So it shares their birthday. So that link, once I get the pre-order link, it'll be up. So it'll be in the link tree as well. But yeah, thank you for
Awesome.
asking.
Of course, of course. And I did forget to say, Damien, congratulations on your 6 years in recovery, and Alicia, happy early womb evacuation day to the mortal plane of existence. And
Right.
also, congratulations on your 6 years of your recovery journey as well,
Thank you.
because yeah, it's been amazing to hear what y'all have been through in the addiction aspect, but it's also amazing to hear what are y'all doing with each other in the recovery aspect. And I just would love to hear more about it, because more people need to hear what couples go through together, both in and out and everything in between, because it's not fair that a lot of people focus on the addicted person whenever their spouse or partner or family is just as affected, if not worse sometimes. So I just gotta say thank you for being so courageous and brave to do what you do. And Damien, thank you for the same, because this has been an amazing conversation, and I know that y'all are changing and helping impact a lot of lives in y'all's day to day. So y'all are doing amazing work. Keep it up.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate it. And thank you for having us on too. I love speaking with you. So I appreciate this, and hopefully see you in the future.
Yeah, of course. We'll definitely see each other in the future. And Alicia, we'll see you as well. Thank y'all again for being on the show. It's been an honor and an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait for the next one. And everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, try to love yourself, love others if you can, but you gotta try to love yourself first, and try to be your favorite version of yourself. If you're having a hard time mental health crisis wise, you can dial 988 or text 741 741. If you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can dial the Trevor Project up in Canada. And I mean, this has been Damien and Alicia, and this has been Keegan, and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Till then, much love. Schlan.